Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the opening ceremony of the 2024 World Science Forum here in the magnificent Béla Bartók National Concert Hall of Müpa, Budapest. My name is Silvia Bece. I'm a senior presenter editor of the Hungarian Classical Music Radio, and it is my honor and privilege to be your master of ceremony on this remarkable occasion. I have the honor to welcome His Excellency Mr. Tamás Súlyog, President of Hungary, Mr. and Madam Presidents, Mr. and Madam Ministers, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and participants from across the globe. This year's forum brings together leading minds from the world of science, policy, and society to engage a dialogue in pursuit of effective policies, shaping a sustainable and equitable future. To officially open the World Science Forum 2024, it is my greatest pleasure to invite Professor Tamás Freund, President of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences and Chair of the World Science Forum 2024, to deliver his welcome address. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Dear Mr. President, Your Excellencies, dear ministers and government representatives, leaders of international and national science organizations, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2024 World Science Forum. It is my absolute pleasure to greet you on behalf of the steering committee of the World Science Forum and also on behalf of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, the institution which has been the driving force behind the creation of this conference series for over 20 years by now. For this reason, allow me to take this opportunity to recognize and pay tribute to the commitment of my predecessors, former presidents of the Academy, namely Professor Sylvester Vizy, who was the one to initiate the pivoting role of the Academy in the organization of the World Science Forum series, Professor József Pálinkás, who elaborated its institutional framework, and Professor László Lovász, who continued to expand and enrich the scope of its events. They have all invested so much into the continuous renewal of the forum and have made these biennial meetings a tradition to treasure by our Academy. May I also compliment the former chairs of the forum, Jacob Paris from Brazil, Her Royal Highness Sumaya bint El Hassan from Jordan, and for the latest 2022 edition of the forum, Minister Blade Nzimande from South Africa. I thank them for having organized three most memorable fora in three different continents, full of excitement and wonder. It is a true honor to follow in their footsteps. But a program for the next 3 days is most of all the fruit of the excellent partnership of the committed international science organizations behind the World Science Forum, UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, ISC, the International Science Council, AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, IAP, the Inter-Academy Partnership, TWAS, the World Academy of Sciences, and ESAC, the European Academy Science Advisory Council. Thank you very much for your sustained support and partnership, which has made the World Science Forum series a lasting success. It is this alliance, strengthened with the Global Young Academy and eminent invited speakers of our steering committee, that we owe gratitude also for this year's rich agenda. And last but not least, it has been the generous financial contribution provided by the Hungarian government, which has enabled the Academy to welcome you here in Budapest in such exquisite circumstances once again in 2024. Dear participants, this year I invite you to explore a topic of paramount importance: the science and policy interface at the time of global transformations. As we look around us, there can be no doubt that we live in an era of rapid and profound global change affecting almost every aspect of human life. The deep sustainability crisis, the race for natural and human resources, technological advancements accelerated by artificial intelligence, and the re-emergence of alarming threats for global peace and security. These are just a few of the unequivocal signs showing that we have abandoned the path for a stable and predictable future. To make wise decisions in such a volatile environment, we need to find solid points of reference more than ever before, both in terms of utmost respect towards universal human values and also in terms of reliable and trustworthy knowledge that is produced by the rigor of science. A bitter lesson we have had to learn recently is that we can't take any of these for granted anymore. With the uncontrollable spread of misinformation, pseudoscience, and opinions being treated as equal to facts, there is a pressing need for a new alliance. A new alliance born out of shared responsibility between policymakers and scientists, science and society. We owe this to future generations who will not excuse us if we fail to act upon the knowledge we already possess. We are all aware that by definition, scientific truth will always have an element of uncertainty, and in some cases it may even be proved wrong in the future. But still, nothing rivals the objectivity, reliability, and above all, the capacity for self-correction of scientific research. It deserves to be trusted. The price to pay for our own failures and external attempts motivated by plain ignorance or adverse interests of undermining this trust is higher than ever. Our goal for the next 3 days is not simply to discuss and address the barriers that prevent the science policy interface from working at its maximum efficiency, but also to strengthen trust in science. We need to identify best practices, demonstrate the importance of different perspectives, and come up with actionable recommendations. We need to address the barriers encoded into our own internal mechanisms as scientists, and also those that might be overcome through engagement with society and policymakers. However, the aim is not to produce unquestionable responses. The informal setting of the World Science Forum is well suited to present various perspectives and to get our participants and audience engaged and committed towards our common goal to make sure science is requested, interpreted, and used wisely when it comes to elaborating policies on a global and national level. I hope that the declaration that emerges from our discussions will not only be a short summary of the most important thoughts communicated here at the forum, but may also serve as a point of reference for scientists and policymakers. The diversity that this forum has to offer in terms of participants and speakers is undoubtedly an excellent foundation for conducting this dialogue. I'm proud to say that based on the over 1,000, in fact we have now 1,100 registrations this year, we have participants from 122 countries, including speakers of international and national science organizations, intergovernmental organizations, governments, industry, the civil society, and scientists from various stages of career. Dear guests, you are welcomed here by the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, an autonomous institution with a mission to cultivate, represent, and popularize science in Hungary, to fund excellent research, to ensure the freedom and ethical conduct of science in Hungary, to provide quality assurance in science and also to deliver science advice. Those having already participated in previous WSF events in Budapest may remember that the Palace of our Academy had always been the main venue of the forum. This will not be the case this time, but luckily for all the good reason. We are preparing for the celebration of the 200th anniversary of the 1825 foundation of our Academy and the upcoming Hungarian Year of Science in 2025-26. Preparations for the next year's celebrations and scientific events also include a partial restoration of our 160-year-old palace. This entails that in the next few days, you will have the pleasure to visit and populate another landmark building in Budapest as the main venue of WSF, the Pesti Vigadó. As you marvel at its glorious halls and premises, please remember that it currently serves as the palace of the Hungarian Academy of Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, this city doesn't only have a rich tradition in science, but also a vibrant scientific and cultural life. Our programs for the evenings would like to showcase some examples of this living tradition at the meeting point of art and science. Please take advantage of these opportunities, and besides discussing science policy issues, join us tomorrow for the reception in the House of Music in the City Park, which is a state-of-the-art concert hall, education center, and museum all in one. Also make sure not to miss out on the Museum of Fine Arts, where you can visit a science expo featuring Hungarian research centers and universities with young researchers who will perform spectacular experiments and give popular science lectures for students interested in science. With these invitations, I wish you stimulating discussions for the World Science Forum and the most enjoyable stay in Budapest for the next 3 days. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much, Professor Freund, for your inspiring words and for setting the stage for what promises to be a transformative week of discussions. Next, we are honored to share a message with you from His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Representing the Secretary General is His Excellency Sing Tu, Deputy Director General of UNESCO. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and pleasure to convey the message from the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for the World Science Forum. The following is a message from the Secretary General of the United Nations. Science is central to tackling our world's greatest challenges. We face a scorching planet, conflict igniting and spreading like wildfire, a digital revolution with endless possibilities and untold risk, and sustainable development goals that are still off track. Now, when the stakes could not be higher for humanity, we must harness the power of science to forge solutions for people and planet alike. This idea is central to the Pact of the Future adopted in September by member states. The Pact places science at the heart of achieving the 2030 Agenda and ensuring that all countries can benefit through enhanced science and technology cooperation. This is why I created the Scientific Advisory Board uniting experts on public health, climate, and artificial intelligence. The board will regularly engage with UN leadership and connect with global networks of scientists and academics, especially in developing countries. And it will help ensure that science shapes, informs, and delivers effective policy solutions around the world. Your forum is a reminder that when science and policy are united, we can meet the needs and aspirations of societies and all people. We are counting on the World Science Forum to continue this important work and ensure that science remains the bedrock of a peaceful, prosperous, and healthy future for all people. Thank you.
Our deepest thanks to UN Secretary General Guterres for his encouraging words. Now I would like to invite the President of Hungary, His Excellency Mr. Tamás Súlyog, to deliver his opening address.
Excuse me, it's a little bit technical problem. The past is beyond our reach, but we are still the masters of the future. Dear presidents, ministers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 200 years ago, there lived a man called István Széchenyi in our country. He was the founder of the legal predecessor of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. He was determined to do something to build a future for his country and to establish scientific and political communities and networks. He never ceased to search for ways to make a better future for his country and the world around him. One after another, his plans become reality. We often call him the greatest Hungarian, as he was referred to by his contemporaries. I also cited him in the opening sentence of my speech. The past is beyond our reach, but we are still the master of the future. It is a pleasure to greet you at the World Science Forum. In the name of my country, I would like to say that it is both a pleasure and honor for us that so many prominent international dignitaries from the world of science, who undoubtedly are shaping the future, have gathered here in Budapest. Hungarian people have always been extremely proud of their scientists, scholars, researchers, and inventors. And we are naturally also very proud that it was the Hungarian Academy of Sciences that initiated the setting up of one of the most significant international forums of the world of science, the World Science Forum. Last year, it was an outstanding and very special year for Hungary, as we had two new Hungarian Nobel laureates, Katalin Karikó and Ferenc Krausz, added to the prestigious list. Both of them achieved the Nobel Prize working with international partners carrying out cutting-edge research. Our highly esteemed scientists have made landmark discoveries that might be shaping the fate and future of mankind. They have achieved extraordinary advances in containing the pandemic and attosecond laser physics. And although we are only witnessing the worldwide success of their work from the sideline, it is definitely true that Edison said, success is 10% inspiration, but 90% perspiration. In the 21st century, mankind is facing hitherto unknown huge challenges. The researchers of the world are addressing such problems as climate change, fight against new epidemics, new demographic crises in the welfare states, and the population explosion in Africa, the future of the Sahel region, global water crisis, the dangers of the microplastics, the dangers of the migration, the direction of technological development, and the issue of sustainable development. Not to speak of the direction artificial intelligence might take in the future. How can we respond to this signs of global crisis? We are well aware that we cannot address these problems successfully without cooperation between high-level policymakers and those working in the world of science. One of the key areas of interaction between science and policy making is scientific advice, which is the main topic of the present World Science Forum. The quality of this relationship has a decisive role in determining how successfully policymakers and scientists can cooperate with each other. The two sides may approach certain issues differently for different reasons. Obviously, this is because scientists and policymakers take different perspectives on these issues, also envisage a different time horizon and set different priorities. But in spite of the differences, they have shared responsibilities. We are all responsible for the future of human civilization. We are responsible for our environment. We are responsible for our children and grandchildren. And not the least, we are responsible for the decisions we make. The pandemic and its containment illustrated well that in our globalized world, one single problem may turn into a worldwide challenge, and that we have to look for solutions together. We can only be successful in finding the answer to these challenges if we join our forces. In spite of the complexity of the challenges, there is one single element that must be present in all areas and disciplines. Neither politics nor science can ignore ethics, which is sometimes very easy to overlook. Only ethical science is capable of improving the life and future of humanity. What is needed is a sensible policy aiming to serve the common good. This means that policymakers have to commit themselves to finding solutions to these challenges, which may pose a real threat and which, at first sight, seem unmanageable. To analyze and interpret the looming signs of crises and challenges and to find the right solutions is always a professional task. What is even more difficult is to make the necessary and reasonable decisions. But if there is trust and an honest dialogue between science and political decision makers, then not only the responsibility, but also the success of the joint effort will be shared. Through our joint effort, we have overcome the pandemic, and this is how we can overcome the crisis facing humanity in the future. We may truly become the masters of the future, to quote the words of the greatest Hungarian, through dedicated work, constructive dialogue, and joint efforts. I wish all the participants of the World Science Forum successful and fruitful discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your insightful remarks and for highlighting Hungary's commitment to fostering the science-society dialogue. May I now invite His Excellency Singh Tu, Deputy Director General of UNESCO, to the stage again for his opening remarks.
Now I am delivering a speech on behalf of UNESCO. Your Excellency, Mr. Thomas Szujak, President of Hungary. Your Excellency, Mr. Balázs Hankó, Minister of Culture and Innovation of Hungary. Your Excellency, Dr. Madiha Ahmed Al-Shaibani, Minister, Head of Delegation, Ministry of Education of the Sultanate of Oman. Sir Peter Krugman, President of the International Science Council. Dr. Sudeep Parikh, CEO, American Association for the Advancement of Science. Dr. Thomas Freund, President of the Hungarian Academy of Science. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for UNESCO to be part of this 2024 edition of the World Science Forum. In particular, I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, for welcoming us here and for your country's continued commitment to science. Hungary holds a special place within the international science community. Contributions made by iconic figures such as Albert Zent Georgi, winner of the 1937 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine, and John van Neumann, a pioneer of modern computing, reflect the country's rich scientific heritage. Since joining UNESCO in 1948, Hungary has been a key partner in our shared mission of promoting scientific cooperation for human development. And we're better together than in Budapest, a city whose historical center has been inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List since 1987. This city has been host to major scientific events. This is where the World Conference on Science was held in 1999, an event that marked a pivotal milestone in establishing the ethical responsibilities of science. And now, as we open this forum 25 years later, we are continuing this essential dialogue. I would like to thank all the organizers and participants of this World Conference. I applaud their commitment to cooperation between policymakers and the scientific community, a vital dialogue given the scale of the challenges we face today. Our world is at a turning point. Climate disruption, the accelerating loss of biodiversity, rapid technological transformation, and worsening inequalities require a collective response, one based on science. This Global Science Forum just like the COP16 on biodiversity and COP29 on climate, is a crucial platform for bringing together scientific efforts in the face of contemporary challenges. Only with science can we develop innovative solutions, predict the long-term trends, and enable policymakers to take appropriate action. The theme of this year's edition, the science and the policy interface at the time of global transformations, highlights a fact that science is not only a tool, but also a lever to steer political choices and respond to challenges. And this is why it is so crucial to build partnerships between policymakers, scientists, and civil society, and to ensure that knowledge is shared. By promoting open science and equitable access to information, in particular, we can strengthen trust in science and allow communities to take action for their future. Since its inception, UNESCO has been working to guarantee scientific freedom and promote open science. For example, our 2017 recommendation on science and scientific researchers provides an essential normative framework for defending scientists in both the execution of their work and the publication of their results. Following this, in 2021, the adoption of the UNESCO recommendation on open science lay the foundations for a new era of international cooperation and a culture of science. In 3 years, much progress has been made. 11 countries have already adopted policies promoting open science, and several others, mainly in Africa, Latin America, and Europe, are working on policies inspired by our recommendation. We have also launched a worldwide consultation on diamond open access, a publishing model free of charge for authors and readers alike. Also, in 2021, our 193 member states adopted the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. It was the first normative instrument in the field of the use of artificial intelligence. And also, we developed a readiness assessment methodology, a tool that allows member states, governments, to see how prepared they are to implement effectively and ethically the artificial intelligence for their people. All of these initiatives reflect our determination to ensure fair access to knowledge and to strengthen trust in science. Today's pressing issues can be met only through ambitious international cooperation. This is why the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed the International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development, which began this year with UNESCO as a lead agency. This initiative mobilizes multidisciplinary scientific approaches, placing research and evidence at the core of political decision-making to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. It reflects our firm belief that only inclusive, collaborative science can guarantee a sustainable future. At a time when every choice we made affects our common future, UNESCO reaffirms its commitment to promoting science for fair, sustainable, and inclusive development. In the face of the growing challenges, Science remains our strongest line of defense against misinformation and doubt. Science informs our decisions and sets the course for lasting peace, as highlighted in our Constitution, which says that it is in the minds of men and women that the defenses of peace must be constructed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Director General, for your contribution and for UNESCO's unwavering support for science and education. Next, it is my pleasure to invite Sir Peter Gluckman, President of the International Science Council, to deliver his opening message.
Honoured guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 25 years since ICSU, the then International Council of Science, the predecessor of the organisation I lead, the International Science Council, together with UNESCO, convened the World Conference of Science here in Budapest, for the 21st century, here in Budapest. That meeting became the forerunner, with the support of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, of the World Science Forum held 2 years later. First held 2 years later. It now involves many other scientific organisations. Its purpose seemed clear some 25 years ago, in bringing scientists together from across disciplines to think about the broader issues confronting science in its relationship to society, and those issues where science could help society and the planet progress. But 1999 was very different to where we are now. The forthcoming millennium was bringing its degree of optimism to the table. Global tensions were much lower. The multilateral system, the rules-based system, appeared to be stable. And the Millennium Development Goals were in the process of being agreed to, and real progress was being made in addressing issues such as poverty and famine. And social media had not appeared. But jump ahead to now. The multilateral system is dysfunctional. The Sustainable Development Goals agreed in 2015 are well off target. The Summit of the Futures held earlier this year was intended to reinvigorate them. But if we're honest about it, the impact they've had has been relatively small. Climate change, biodiversity loss, increasing inequality, more conflicts in the world, indeed more conflicts in the world now than at any time since 1945, growing mental health concerns, and much more. That's the situation we now find ourselves in. And we know the world needs science, therefore, more than ever. There's not an issue where science, both natural and social sciences, could not help in making real progress. Yet science too often remains an optional add-on in policy making, both domestically and internationally. And that's why we're here. That's the theme of this meeting, to rebuild and strengthen that relationship between science and policy making. How do we ensure that science is used effectively to progress the issues globally as encapsulated in the sustainability agenda? And how do we ensure that science is better used and effectively used by countries at every stage of economic and social development? There are at least 4 challenges, and I'll highlight 4 in my remarks. The first is a major focus of this meeting. The changed information environment and the rise of populism have undermined trust in elites and institutions. And one of those core institutions of society is science. While science may be more trusted than many other institutions, there is no doubt trust in science is declining. The challenge is how to stop that trend, because if science is not trusted, it will not be used. There are deep issues here of psychology of trust, about the obvious issues about how our industry of science operates, too often with hyperbole, ego and hubris, and that undermines trust. It's much more complex than just producing trustworthy knowledge, although we must continue to do better. How do we interact with other knowledge systems which determine how science is received and trusted, whether they're political knowledge systems, religious, indigenous knowledge systems, or professional knowledge systems? The second challenge I think of is an evolutionary one. Our brains are designed by evolution for short-term reactive thinking. And that's now reinforced by the changed information environment and the transactional nature of much modern politics. How do we shift not only policymakers, but also citizens to recognise that we must focus on the longer term and accept that trade-offs will be needed? And what are those trade-offs? Here, complexity exists, and science must help translate that complexity into meaningful action. Have we openly described, identified, and discussed these issues rather than staying in our disciplinary silos? And that brings me to the third challenge. How do we ensure that our science is actionable? This is a major focus of the ISC, the International Science Council's work with the multinational agencies and together with UNESCO, where we work with the UNESCO on the Executive Committee of the Decade of Science for Sustainability. Science must be better embedded with society, and to do so, transdisciplinary approaches will need to be developed. Indeed, the promotion of transdisciplinary research has become a major theme of the International Science Council as the primary and largest NGO representing the active scientific community and active in virtually every country of the world. Partnerships with industry, policymakers, NGOs and local communities are essential if knowledge is to be actionable, and that's at the heart of what true transdisciplinary science is. Without compromising the basic values and principles of science, we need to work better to learn how to work with other knowledge systems so our knowledge is translated into action. And we need to find better ways to be at the policy table. The ISC has made enormous strides in doing so at the UN system, but sadly too few countries have embedded science properly into their policy systems. That, in my mind, is an urgent issue. Every country needs a science advisory ecosystem, and that includes within their ministries of finance, and within their foreign ministries, because it's only through the foreign ministries having good science advice that the use of science in the multilateral system can be properly developed. And the fourth challenge is that there are changes that are happening to the science system itself. Most obviously is the welcomed and overdue growth in the diversity of those who produce science, and in the significant shift in the geographical distribution of where science is being produced. It's moving to the south, it's moving to the east. But beyond that, the emergence of artificial intelligence in particular, but other technologies will fundamentally change the way science is done and the way science is reported. And this in turn will change the very institutions of science. Will data scientists, AI scientists, become the leaders of teams that produce science? How will we train the next generation of disciplinary scientists in the face of where data rules in every way? These are real issues, and we need to be thinking about them now. It's why the ISC set up the Centre for Science Futures and why we've welcomed the growing partnership with UNESCO in such areas. We need to be collective and innovative in our thinking how AI and other technologies will influence knowledge production, knowledge communication, and how knowledge is taken up by society. And in that respect, we cannot deny the growing intertwining of science, technology, economic growth, and security concerns. This could increasingly compromise the openness and collective nature of science, the very thing that the Deputy Director General has just referred to in the work that UNESCO and the IFC have done both individually and collectively. We must be pragmatic, and here science diplomacy, another theme of this meeting, will be so important. And I want to leave you with one thought. Can we use science not just on the environmental components and the human components of the SDGs around which most of our conversation tends to reflect, but could we give greater emphasis to SDG 16, peace? Because science could help reduce tension and thus create the environment for greater progress on the other 16 goals. I think that's a challenge for us to think about how we do that. And I think, remembering back to the World Science Forum held in Jordan only a few years ago, that theme of science for peace is something that we need to think about, directly thinking about what we can do to use science to reduce the risk of conflict, and think about what real peace is. The forum, in summary, is an important part of ensuring that science can play an important part in advancing the global commons. Just because it's hard to do so is not a reason to retire from doing so. We must give it greater effort. After all, as that Hungarian diplomat and a good friend of mine, Saba Karosi, said to me when he was President of the General Assembly, science is the only true universal knowledge system and only universal language that the people of this planet have. The motto, or the vision of the International Science Council, is to be the global voice for science. It's a language that needs a stronger voice. Let's all shout a little bit louder. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Peter Gluckman, for your insights. Last but not least, I am pleased to invite Mr. Sudip Parikh, Chief Executive Officer of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, to take the floor. Dr. Parikh, the stage is yours.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ministers, distinguished colleagues, and friends, I am absolutely delighted to be here with you at the 2024 World Science Forum in Budapest. My thoughts as I came here are to remind myself that when I was a kid, I used to want to live in one of the golden ages of science. I thought, wouldn't it have been amazing to be alive in the 1600s and have a conversation with Isaac Newton? Or how about 1905 and a conversation with Einstein? Or the end of World War II and the optimism and hope to come with the benefits of penicillin and physics and everything else. But after 4.5 years as the CEO of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, I am absolutely convinced that this is in fact the golden age of science. Think of it. We live in an era when we know that there are methane-covered mountains on Pluto, methane-covered dust on ice mountains or on Pluto. We know that. We know that there are opportunities not just to treat and mitigate disease, but to cure disease. In fact, we've done it. And we know that there are scientific routes to do more. And we live in a moment when artificial intelligence challenges the very notion of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be an intelligence. We live in a time like that. And so it's incredibly concerning to me that all the challenges that you've heard on this stage already do confront us. We do live in a time of transformation. We do live in a moment of peril, but we also live in a moment of possibility. And as I look at that and I think to myself, what is it? What is it that science can do? What is it that's possible? You have to think to yourself, this is a moment when we have to look at the world and say, what is it that our geopolitics are telling us? Our geopolitics are telling us that it's a time for disruption. It's a time to change. And I think that's true. There's no way around it. We've had technological advances that have changed the way we live, and we cannot cling to a past that is no longer the way forward. But if we can't do that, then how do we move forward? How do we respond to those transformations? I would submit to you that we should be open to disruption, but we should not disrupt to destroy. We have foundations that we've built over the last 80 years, structures that have funded science, structures that have advanced us to heights that our grandparents could only have imagined. So we have to build on those foundations. We have to disrupt, but not destroy. How do you do that? How do you do that as an enterprise, as a scientific enterprise, as a diplomatic enterprise? I would say to you that the way to do that is to build bridges. We have to build the bridges between science and policy, science and politicians, science and the public. And that can only come from trusted communications, situational awareness of to whom we're talking, and building a culture of trust that says science is essential to solving the problems and the challenges that you've heard on this stage. I am incredibly optimistic that that is possible, even in a time of peril. And the reason why is because I go to rooms like this around the world, rooms like this where people come together and say, how are we going to build those bridges? How are we going to disrupt but not destroy? How are we going to make life better for everyone on this planet? And so I look forward to working with you over the next couple of days, getting to know you, talking over coffee breaks, and solving those challenges. It's never been solved in any other way but by building those kinds of bridges. And I look forward to building them with you here in Budapest in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parikh, for your compelling message. Ladies and gentlemen, in the following, I have the distinct honor to announce the award ceremony of the UNESCO Sultan Qaboos Prize for Environmental Conservation. This prestigious award, established in 1989, recognizes outstanding contributions to the preservation of the environment. To guide us through this special occasion, I am pleased to invite Mr. Antonio de Souza Abreu, Director of Division of Ecological and Earth Sciences at UNESCO, to the stage as the Master of Ceremony for presenting the prize.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished guests. It is a great pleasure and an honor to guide you and to present you the ceremony of the Sultan Qaboos Prize for Environmental Conservation. So for this, we have some contributions, and the first one will be, again, I would like to give the floor to our Deputy Director General of UNESCO, Mr. Xing Shu.
Your Excellency, President of Hungary, Your Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Nearly 35 years ago, the late Sultan Qaboos, seen outside of Oman, invited each of us, through the creation of the UNESCO Prize that bears his name, to mobilize for the planet, since, in his words, the conservation of the environment is a responsibility of all of us, a responsibility that knows no political boundaries. In doing so, he shared UNESCO's fundamental belief that sustainable development based on education and respectful of natural ecosystems is the most direct route to peace with nature. Administrated by UNESCO's pioneering Man and the Biosphere program, this prize has been awarded for the past 3 decades to organizations, institutions, associations, and individuals worldwide who are committed to defending ecosystems and have made outstanding contributions to environmental education. We can see its value all the more clearly at a time when the collapse of the living world has led to the disappearance of almost 73% of the wild vertebrate species since 1970, an unprecedented decline in biodiversity. The Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework are all appeals to halt this worrying degradation of the environment. But the only way to achieve this in long term and to allow future generations to continue these efforts is through environmental education. And our organization very much shared this belief with the 2024 winner of the Sultan Qaboos Prize, the Namib Desert Environmental Education Trust, NADIT. Since its creation in 2003, this Namibian non-governmental organization has been working with people living in arid zones where water management is vital to raise awareness of and provide training in sustainable lifestyles. It has played a key role in the mainstreaming of environmental education in Namibia, having introduced some 75,000 school children to best practices in waste recycling, natural heritage preservation, and safeguarding water resources in the Namib Desert through a learning by doing approach. In doing so, this organization is making an exceptional contribution to the preservation of the Namib Sand Sea. Inscribed on the World Heritage List since 2013, it is a unique site that boasts red sand dunes over 55 million years old and many endemic species. NADIT is also regularly involved in public policy development. It played a leading role in designing Namibia's national strategy for education for sustainable development between 2017 and 2019. In recognition of these contributions, NADIT was already awarded the UNESCO Japan Prize on Education for Sustainable Development in 2018. Today, UNESCO is once again highlighting NADIT's action for communities and the environment, in particular through its Urban Sustainability Center in Swakopmund. Dear laureates, on behalf of UNESCO, I sincerely congratulate you all. May this prize encourage younger generations to carry on safeguarding our natural heritage. We must place life and all living things at the forefront of our response to today's challenges. In this way, we will be able to hit the call made very recently by primatologist Jane Goodale at the UNESCO headquarters. He said, "Let us make the world better for the children that are coming after us and help them to make the world better for themselves." Thank you.
As it was mentioned before, this prize is happening since 1999 through the generous support of Oman. It is a great honor to give the floor now to Her Excellency, the Minister of Education of Oman, Dr. Madiha Ahmed Al-Shaibani.
Distinguished Tomáš Fried, President of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences and Chair of the World Science Forum, Excellencies, honored guests, good evening to you all. Today, I'm delighted to return to the World Science Forum, this crucial platform that fosters dialogue among the scientific community and policymakers, a forum that is vital for the exchanging exchanging ideas and envisioning a better future shaped by science and innovation. On this momentous occasion, it is an honor to convey the greetings of His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, the Sultan of Oman, along with his best wishes for the success of this forum. The theme of this year's forum is especially timely. The world is undergoing profound transformations, economic, technological, and environmental, that are reshaping the way we live and interact. As governments face mounting pressure to adopt sustainable practices and technological advancements continue to accelerate, there is an urgent need for the world to adapt, evolve, and rethink how to address the challenges of our time. At the core of these challenges is intensified human activity, which, while driving innovation and growth, is also contributing to rapid depletion of natural resources, loss of biodiversity, and acceleration of the effects of climate change. This underscores the necessity of harnessing research, technology, and international collaboration to create effective, evidence-informed policies that help build a more resilient future. For this reason, the importance of this forum cannot be emphasized enough. It offers us an opportunity to strengthen our global efforts by providing science-based solutions that advance human well-being as well as safeguard our planet for generations to come. This occasion also marks the 33rd anniversary of the UNESCO Sultan Qaboos Prize for Environmental Conservation, which honors outstanding achievements for sustainable development worldwide with a focus on promoting innovative practices that contribute to the sustainable management of natural resources. The Sultanate of Oman has long valued environmental conservation. The Sustainable Development Goals have been fully integrated in Oman's national strategy, Vision 2040, which reflects Oman's commitment to global sustainability efforts. With this framework in place, Oman has notably risen to the 50th place in the Environmental Performance Index and has committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050. Upcoming events such as Oman Climate Week, supported by the United Nations, further reflects this commitment. Today, we proudly celebrate the awarding of the UNESCO Sultan Qaboos Prize for Environmental Conservation, honoring the Namib Desert Environmental Education Trust for its remarkable contributions to the environmental education in Namibia. Their impactful efforts continue to inspire meaningful challenge and preserve the beauty of our natural world. In closing, I extend my gratitude to the Hungarian Academy of Sciences for hosting this forum, to UNESCO and all those dedicated to protecting the environment. Our global effort and shared commitment are key to creating a lasting change for a sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we will see a little bit of video that we have prepared for you, both from Oman and also about the winner that will come to us later.
The Sultanate of Oman, distinguished by its prime location along key maritime routes, stands as a vibrant, strategic heart in the tapestry of the world, offering a natural allure like no other. Positioned along dynamic sea pathways, Oman bridges east and west, standing as a crossroads of trade and culture for thousands of years. It is the first Arab land to meet the sunrise, with dawn breaking over the Arab world at Ras Al Had, before sweeping across the region. On Omani soil, majestic mountains, golden deserts, and expansive coastlines intertwine in a display of rare natural beauty and geographical diversity. Here, Oman's landscapes are a powerful testament to the endurance and richness of life itself. In its deep waters thrives a unique marine world, and in its nature reserves, beauty breathes freely. This vibrant biodiversity speaks to Oman's deep connection to the earth and all its forms of life. Across its varied landscapes, Oman carries the legacy of past civilizations. It is not only a land, but a place of cultural exchange and heritage, sharing the story of enduring people with a long and vibrant history. With profound wisdom and care, His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq upholds Oman's natural legacy, committing to sustainability and preserving its splendor for generations to come. His Majesty has set a target for Oman to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, backed by a national plan and the establishment of the Oman Center for Governance and Sustainability, underscoring Oman's efforts towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. This is Oman, a living heart connecting east and west through a bridge of nature and civilization. An everlasting heritage, a legacy thriving through time with a spirit of authenticity and enduring beauty.
Hello, my name is Victoria Kading. I am the co-founder and director of the Namib Desert Environmental Education Trust, NADEET, a non-profit organization in Namibia.
Since 2003, NADEET has established 2 environmental education centers in and around the Namib Nature Reserve in Namibia. This region, among the driest in the world, faces immense challenges from climate change, resource scarcity, and social inequality. At Nadit, we address these challenges through a holistic approach.
Here, to fill this box here. We measure here our environment footprints.
Our centers are designed to immerse participants in sustainability, allowing them to experience firsthand the impact of their lifestyle choices.
We are preparing meatballs with sauce, with a little sauce on it.
Right.
And also put it in the oven.
What kind of oven?
Solar oven.
Solar oven.
We welcome school children, teachers, and community members to engage in hands-on activities.
The thing that I love about Nadit is the DreamWorks, how to live a sustainable life, and the food also. It's so much fun.
Participants cook with solar cookers.
This is solar ovens. Today we make pizza.
Take bucket showers, and use dry toilets.
This is so beautiful. Use it like this and then to wash your hands.
Directly experiencing how daily actions contribute to conservation. To date, over 18,000 Namibians have taken part in these transformative experiences, and through teacher training, our messages of sustainability have reached more than 60,000 school children across the country.
At Nadit, we envision a world where nature thrives and where environmental rights and responsibilities are valued, protected, and upheld by every citizen.
So now, to give the prize to the winner is with us, among us, so I will call back our Deputy Director General and Her Excellency, the Minister of Education of Amman. Please. And of course, the winner, Victoria, please join us. So we would like to hear from Victoria, the director of Nadit, with congratulations. She is the top winner among more than 20 candidates that were then selected through a process. And this is also the moment to thank the jury, because it's an international independent jury that did all the work to assess the applications. Thank you very much. The floor is yours, and congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I feel honored to be here this evening at the World Science Forum and in this beautiful historic city of Budapest on behalf of Nadit. Thank you to UNESCO and the Sultanate of Oman for the existence of this very important prize. My sincere appreciation goes to the Namibia National Commission for UNESCO for nominating us and to the members of the prize jury for selecting us for this prestigious award in 2024. Thank you. I'm also very grateful that the prize is being given at the World Science Forum. I've been in the field of environmental education for 25 years, and to this day, I love the thrill of finding innovative ways of bringing how the world works closer to people. This has been the true success of NADIT. It is the combination of what we teach with how we teach it. So what do we teach? Simply put, we teach about our environment, its biological diversity, and our relationship to it. We must therefore also teach about the threats, deforestation, pollution, and of course climate change, to name a few. We make sure to teach the science. These are our core topics, but in changing people's relationship with the environment, we know that we must not just convey information, but focus on how we teach it. This, I believe, is key to successful environmental education and conservation. As the school children in the video explained, they are learning by doing. They are at the core of learning. At NADIT Center, every one of our participants, every school child, university student, teacher becomes a little scientist. Participants are exploring physical properties, proving them right by solar cooking their own food. How satisfying to bake your own pizza by using the sun and thereby experiencing science at work. Children are applying concepts of identification and classification by studying the numerous specialized Namib desert beetles. They are using their imaginations to draw their own super-adapted desert creatures and thereby applying biological concepts to solve problems expressed creatively through art. Participants are auditing their resource consumption and thereby using and seeing that mathematics has a purpose outside the classroom in the real world. They are working in teams and seeing the results of collaboration to analyze this data to reduce their water consumption. NADIT learning takes place in the outdoors, in nature, learning from nature. It is practical and fun. This is the foundation of NADIT's approach to environmental education. We practice what we teach. Receiving the UNESCO Sultan Qaboos Prize for Environmental Conservation is a great honor for us and for Namibia. The actual validation of our work we see in the eyes of our participants. But by receiving this prize, it gives us and our transformative approach to education for sustainable development increased international exposure as a vital component to addressing our global issues. We're excited that it will assist us to scale up our work as we are currently expanding our Urban Sustainability Center. On behalf of NADIT, I would like to express our gratitude to our many supporters and donors over the past 20+ years, as well as to the Namib Nature Reserve, which has made large landscape conservation a reality in southern Namibia and has given us a unique educational home. I would like to give my sincere thank you to my family and my dedicated staff at NADIT. Without you, NADIT would just be an idea and not the driving force for environmental education as it is today. Your work, dedication, and passion for nature makes a difference. Again, on behalf of NADIT and all of the school children, students, and teachers of Namibia that will benefit from the UNESCO Sultan Qaboos Prize for Environmental Conservation, I thank you.
Thank you, Vittoria, for all the knowledge, all the education, all the concerns about sustainability, but also for your passion, because this is also something that is closely related to science, passion and ambition. Thank you very much, and this is the time to give back. the work to our real master of ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much and congratulations once again. Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude the opening ceremony, please allow me to invite you to a thought-provoking scientific lecture on the synthesis of artificial life by Urs Szatmári, research professor at the Handren Center for Ecological Research and a highly acclaimed expert of evolutionary biology and theoretical ecology. Please join me in welcoming Professor Szatmári to the stage to deliver his scientific lecture. Please, Professor.
Thank you very much. Respected President of the Republic, Excellencies, Presidents of the Academies, Ministers, dear fellow humans, first and foremost. Today, I'm going to speak about something which is a topic for basic science at the moment, but I also would like to express my gratitude that I can speak after the prize winner, because I think it's an extremely important topic. So thank you very much and congratulations. Now let's see whether the slides come up. The first one is already there. So this has been a long-standing dream of mankind, obviously, and I'm going to take you for this adventurous trip in 20 minutes, of course, so there will be occasional stops, and I'm going to cut certain corners, but I hope you will enjoy it. I can assure you that I can count at least up to 5. So that's a mistake, because I was making the slides and I forgot to update the title. So I'm going to address briefly these questions in this talk. Why, what, who, how, and when. Why are we doing this? Well, in 1862, a famous Hungarian dramatist, Imre Madács, published a very important drama, The Tragedy of Man. And in that, we see some very remarkable lines. I give them in Hungarian as well as in English. This is the best English translation to my mind, because it's kind of old English, so it resonates very well with the time of the Hungarian dramatist. So the line starts, "Why man too almost, if he should but learn, might in his kitchen cease as good a broth." Okay? Here how it continues. "In thy great kitchen, thou hast placed man and ceased indulgent, how he spoils the food. A very bungler thinks himself a god." Now, you must understand, this drama is played in Hungary, quite frequently even today. It's a very nice one. Now, so the question is, what we are up to. Are we, I mean me and my colleagues, are we these hopeless cooks that is referred to? Let's not forget who says these lines. This is actually after the act of creation, and who speaks this line is actually this gentleman on the left. It's Lucifer, is the devil. So obviously we are not going to go down that line. It's a completely different goal that we are seeking. This is actually what we are up to. This is Richard Feynman, the very famous physicist, and this is the famous dictum that guides us. What I cannot create, I do not understand. So, unless we can create life, we cannot be sure we actually understand the basics of life. We know a lot about life, but do we really understand what the basics are? That's the question. Okay, so let's see. So what are we up to? Now, certainly not this one. Partly because it's too highly complex. Secondly, it's remarkably ugly and nasty. This is not what we want. Okay, this looks more benign. These are the cells that you have in your bodies. This is the so-called cell nucleus up there. Okay, so, and this is a very big cell, and this part here is just as big as a bacterium. In fact, The power plant of the cells was a free-living bacterium before. So let's forget about it. You cannot expect to create something like that, which is only a mere 2 billion years old. So we must go deeper than that. Bacteria are undoubtedly today the simplest autonomous living beings. So that's the closest that we can look at. Unfortunately, they are still very complex, and they are the results of a very long time of evolution. In particular, they have a genetic code. The genetic code is a very complicated translation mechanism from nucleic acids, DNA, to proteins, and we know it is a result of a very long evolution, so you can throw that out as well, but there is, even so, there is something to learn. People, when they were thinking about the basics of life, they realized that there are two kinds of processes involved. One is a kind of a cyclical nature, right? That you have to do again and again. That's basically metabolism on the left. On the right, what you see is you have some kind of a programmed progression of different steps. I didn't want to show the last step because it's a little bit disappointing, but you know, life has a dual nature, and we have to account for that when we want to minimalize life. When you think about artifacts, it's very clear that the qualitative capacities of artifacts come from the right kind of coupling of the right type of components. That's called organization. So if you want to create a bow, you actually have to find the components and do it in the right way. The coupling has to be right. So this is the lesson that is also very important. So if you look at bacteria a little bit closer, there are some hints. There are three components you can identify. One is a sac, you know, a bag, so that it keeps the things together. The other one, now that's metabolism for you, it's an incredible meshwork of small molecules, right? It's intimidating for the biochemistry students, right? And here is the genetic material somewhere. That is the well-known DNA, and I think that everybody knows about that. So that gives you some hint. Okay, look for that, but forget the genetic code as it is today, something like that. Now, since we are going to do it from bottom up, meaning from chemistry, and biology is rooted in chemistry in two ways. It's rooted ontologically, because it rests on molecules, organization of molecules, and also epistemologically, you know, also molecular biology, for which a dozen Nobel Prizes were given, that is also rooted in macromolecular chemistry. So from the chemical point of view, the basic constituent of life is autocatalytic reactions. That means that, you know, if you are starting with a molecule and framed in green, you are taking up something, you know, it grows, taking up another molecule. Here you have got a longer molecule, and at this point, it splits into two. That's real, it's not just paper chemistry. These things happen, these things you find. Autocatalysis is remarkable because, as you see, I mean, the chemicals are multiplying like bacteria when you go down the line. So if you keep the supply of the food, so to speak, then the growth is going to be exponential in the number of molecules. So this is the crux of the matter, really. Okay. So, and this is not unreal. This is the so-called Formose reaction. There is the boring part. Okay, so this is a very slow reaction. Don't bother about the exact formula, but there is a complexification of molecules. The glycolaldehyde will be our hero because of the following fact. Okay, so that's the point. So when you start with one molecule of glycolaldehyde and you take up altogether 2 molecules of formaldehyde, there you have molecular reproduction of a small molecule. And this reaction was discovered by Butlerov a little bit earlier than today. It's an old result. It doesn't need any help. It's spontaneous. Just let me remind you of another component that we discussed, that's DNA. As Schrödinger said, it's an aperiodic crystal. What does it mean? That these are the letters, right, that give you the genetic information. And you can copy it because of this effect that they are matching in the geometrical shape, the letters that you feel. Can this be simplified? Yes, it can be. Here is a famous result by my friend Günther von Kidrowski from 1986. And that's just, it looks like a piece of DNA, really. Okay, this is one. And here you have got two shortest pieces. Now these align because of this quasi-crystallization that I explained, the pairing. Now these come in physical proximity, then you make a copy, and then because these are short, they can spontaneously come apart, and then they can start the cycle again. So again, we have an important, potentially genetically important reaction, which is spontaneous. Okay, now, what about the boundaries? I'm just showing you very briefly the principle. These are molecules. They hate the water inside, and the heads like the water, and then they can form vesicles. It looks like little cells, don't they? And then it's important that these molecules can spontaneously insert once you already have a membrane like this. So, if you supply the constituents, once again, you have the possibility of exponential growth because the existing membrane catalyzes the formation of new membrane. Right, so who is going to do this project? Here is us, right? So these are really eminent scientists. I mean, my colleagues, there are two chemists, Gonen Ashkenazi and Sibren Otto. He is from the Ben Gurion at Israel. Otto Sibren is at Groningen in the Netherlands. Andrew Griffiths is from Paris, and yours truly here. So, and you can see the synergistic expertises that map onto the systems that I have described. It's a European Research Council synergy grant, and this is what we want to do together. How are we going to do it? We need still a conceptual crystallization point. So we have to abstract away from the known line forms because they are highly evolved creatures, and we want to simplify so as to arrive at a minimalistic formulation. Extremely fortunately for me and my group, this conceptualization actually started in Hungary, and I mean it. This is the best form I know. This is why we are implementing that. So Tibor Ganti was a chemical engineer. In 1971, he published this book. This was the first peer exposition of the relevant ideas, and nowadays we trace back one origin of systems chemistry to this kind of book. This is the latest edition in 2003, completely rewritten after many Hungarian editions, as new science. Now that's remarkable for us, a scientific community and science policy makers. I just want to emphasize, science, even today, does not progress with a constant velocity in a straight line. That's not true. If there is a paradigm change, then it can still require decades when the time comes. So here is the 74 version, and let us go through it because that's the blueprint, really, of bottom-up life creation. So there are three qualitatively different chemical systems. All of them are autocatalytic, you see. A1, 2 molecules of A1. PVN, 2 molecules of PVN. And the membrane surface, and 2, the doubled surface. These are couplings that look like couplings in trade. You know, one system produces something, then the other consumes it. It's called an organizational closure. All the systems are autocatalytic, and the system is also autocatalytic as a whole. This is the kind of system that we are aiming at. Now, that's too complex to begin with, so this is what's happening now. This is exactly what's happening now. These systems, I coined the term about 15 years ago of infrabiological systems, which means that any two combinations of these three necessary ingredients constitutes an infrabiological system. It's almost biological, but not quite, but definitely we are on the right track. And once we have several instantiations of these system doublets, we can venture into creating the, so to speak, the trinity of this field, the bottom-up synthesis of a chemical supersystem, which I think is also a biological minimal system at the same time. Now, Ganti actually in 78 proposed one of these infrabiological systems, which doesn't have genetics, but it has metabolism, right? And it does have a membrane around it. And we are already working. So this is one realization of this idea. This is Andrew Griffiths in Paris, with whom we did it. This is again the Formose reaction, this autocatalytic formation of sugar molecules. You remember the formaldehyde is what you are giving as a food. And you are putting the Formose reaction into droplets. And those droplets that have a good seed, which is autocatalytic, so it is multiplying inside, they are growing at the expense of the other. So one of the infrabiological systems you can already tick. When? Well, for the chemists, I would say in statu nascendi. This is where we are. It's happening now. Okay? So we started in February this year, and we have 6 years. And we would like to weave together these 3 strands so that ultimately we deliver what we promised. Louis Pasteur famously said that chance favors the prepared mind. Wish us luck, please. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Satmari, for this fascinating talk. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us proceed to the final part of our event. We have compiled a musical program for you to give you a taste of the richness of Hungarian music. Even if you are not experts of classical or folk music, these pieces are going to sound familiar to your ears. Hungarian folk songs step into the depth of the soul. Hungarian people sing about their joy and sadness. They sing if it rains or shines, if they are in love or heartbroken, in luck or in despair. The songs you are going to hear tonight are about lost love and the hope of love. Both songs were collected in Transylvania. Let us welcome to the stage Liszt Prize awardee Ági Szalóki, one of the finest Hungarian folk singers. She has toured worldwide with world music and folk revival bands. She's going to sing a cappella first, and then accompanied by Kossuth Prize awardee, pianist János Balázs. János Balázs is a truly versatile musician who is eager to showcase his improvisation skills beyond the classical stage in jazz, world music, and folk music. He's a dedicated ambassador of the more than 150-year-old tradition of virtuosity and improvisation in Hungarian piano music, going back to Franz Liszt himself. With his interpretation, let us now evoke Liszt, the excellent concert pianist, with the number of 6 of his 19 Hungarian rhapsodies.
Van most, mint volt régen, nem az a nap süt az égen, nem az a nap, nem az a hold, nem az a nap, nem az a hold, nem az a szeretőm ki volt, nem az a szeretőm ki volt. S aki volt már rég elhagyott, aki volt már rég elhagyott, szebbre vágyott, mind én vagyok, szebbre vágyott, mind én vagyok, szebbre vágyott, de nem kapott, még olyan sem, mind én vagyok. A-na-na-na, na-na-na-na, na-na-na-na. Csikorog a szekés, szép hatökör húzza, mellette egy barna legény könnyeit hullatja, mellette egy barna legény könnyeit hullatja. Ne sír, barna kislány, ne sírj a faluba, terem legény, még a te számodra, terem legény, még a te számodra. Ne síras gyöngykoszorúdat, ne síras gyöngykoszorúdat, kötek én még neked olyat, kötek én még neked olyat.
Liszt incorporated many themes into his rhapsodies, which he believed to be of folk origin, though many were, in fact, tunes composed by members of the Hungarian upper middle class or by professional composers, and often played by gypsy bands. One of the first composers to reveal the beauty of authentic Hungarian folk music was Béla Bartók. Traveling across the remote lands of Hungary with an Edison phonograph, Bartók and his friend Zoltán Kodály, creator of the famous Kodály method of music education, recorded villagers as they sang folk songs. These tunes were then to become their lifelong inspiration. Tonight, Kossuth Prize awardee violinist Kristóf Baráti, who has been described as a true tonal aesthete of the highest order, is going to perform Bartók's Romanian folk dances with János Balázs at the piano. After the classical part of the concert, we are going to conclude with a selection of thrilling folk dances, choreographed by István Berec and performed by excellent soloists of the Hungarian National Dance Ensemble, artistic director Zoltán Zsuravszky, and the Hungarian State Folk Ensemble under artistic director Gábor Mihály, with Márton Kovács and his folk music band. Pianist János Balázs is going to embed the famous Allegro Barbaro by Béla Bartók into the folk music performance. And finally, let us entertain you with the double dances from Kálló, compiled by Zoltán Kodály from arrangements of the folk dances of the town of Nagykálló. This performance is brought to you by singer Ági Szalóki, pianist János Balázs, Márton Kovács and his folk band, in cooperation with the soloists of the Hungarian National Dance Ensemble and the Hungarian State Folk Ensemble. This choreography is the work of Gergő Sánta. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a true honor and pleasure to be here with you tonight. I hope you have enjoyed getting a glimpse into the lively musical universe of Hungary. Thank you very much for your attention, and we wish you a pleasant time here in Budapest. Thank you very much.
sötétbe, hogy üljek az öletbe. De ha te tudnád, amit én, ki babája vagyok én. Ha te tudnád, amit én, ki babája vagyok én. Te is sírnál, nem csak én, keservesebben, mint én. Te is sírnál, nem csak én, keservesebben, mint én. Viva! Tosik az árva madár, egyik útról másikra száll. Hát az olyan árva, mint én, hogy ne bujdokolna szegény. De nem szánt vet az égi madár, mégis eltartja a határ. De én se szántok, se nem vetek, mégis megélek köztetek. De én se szántok, se nem vetek, mégis megélek köztetek. Fekete gyűrű faságon, csíkos gulyás benne táncol, de benne táncol két katona, szépen szól a sarkantyúja, de benne táncol két katona, szépen szól a sarkantyúja. Úgy hívják a libát őket, de kocsmáros lélánya szőken, édes annak zuzamája, piros mind a két orcája, de édes annak zuzamája, piros mind a két orcája. De Rózsa Sándor szereti a táncot, nagy fáradon csörgeti a láncot, csörgeti a szatyébíró láncát, a vármegye 6 fontos kóboncát. De nem iszom bort, fogadásom tartja, vizet iszom, mikor kedvem tartja, azt is csak úgy a szájából adja, mint kis madár a párját mutatja, de azt is csak úgy a szájából adja, mint kis madár a fiát mutatja. Zúg az erdő, zúg a mező, de vajon ki zúgatja? Hát talán bizony angyal van, sejhaj a lóvány ugratja. De talán bizony angyal van, sejhaj a lóvány ugratja. De ne menj arra, angyal van, ne menj az Alföldre, de csikósoknak, diásoknak sejhaj, ne járj Szivárványos az ég alja, de nem jól van a fejem, alja csuhaj. De gyere, babám, igaz is, fáj a szívem, gyógyítsál, nem csuhaj. De gyere, babám, igaz is, fáj a szívem, gyógyítsál, nem csuhaj. Tartozom én a kocsmában, 9 liter borárágal csuhaj. Jaj, Istenem, hogy adjam meg, hogy a babám ne tudja, ne csuhaj. De jaj, Istenem, hogy adjam